What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Rage Traders NRL Supercoach podcast. Wolfie here, and today we're going to be discussing 5 pods that I think can seriously help you win NRL Supercoach in 2026. We also are going to be doing a bit of a strategy talk before that, and then to end the video, we have a bit of a Q&A where people have sent through their questions to be answered from YouTube. If you didn't know you could do that, head to my community post. You can always chuck in questions there at the Rage Traders on YouTube. Now, before we start, if you haven't subscribed, it is your time to subscribe now. The reason being is I'm running the Rage Traders 1K Supercoach League, which is basically $1,000 is up for grabs. If you enter the code in 739499, we have 522 people in there at the minute, and all you have to do to be eligible to win this is be a subscriber to the Rage Traders on YouTube. That's it. Whoever comes first will get the $1,000, and congratulations. Now, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify podcast, please 5-star review. If you're watching on YouTube and you enjoyed the video, comment, like, subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. It helps with the algorithm as well. All right, let's get straight into it. I'm very excited for this video, but I wanted to talk about a bit about strategy. Now, one thing I try not to do is tinker a lot with my team every day, every minute of the week. I think it scatters your brain, and I think it actually ruins how you create a team. And I kind of like to sit back, take a few days off, and just think about, okay, the scoring changes, what things are looking like, and what I think would be the best way to attack this. So for me at the moment, I'm thinking about how I'm building my team. And I think there is a viable strat of having 5 centers, 4 main ones, and then 1 in the flex with your 3 on the bench. So in total, 8 centers. But on the starting field, you have 5. One thing I am concerned about is that if I go cheap in the fullbacks, how do I get to a fullback if they do actually start off really good and we've kind of overreacted to like the scoring stats changes and fullbacks losing a bit? That's something I'm a bit worried about. But I'm also thinking the stats don't lie, and there might be one fullback out there that does really, really well. But I think in the whole scheme of things, if you go too heavy on the fullbacks, you're going to lose out. But I really, really think, and this was my main strategy talk that I wanted to have with you guys, is that I think out of all the seasons, I think this will be the season that you have to really value points over price. Even if you take a bit of a hit, I think the person that wins this season will be someone that just gets so far ahead and their points is ridiculous because they've had, like, basically we have inside information to players that have like bumps in price, Isaiah, there's plenty, but we also have the ability to now look at information where random players we wouldn't consider Supercoach friendly, like a Bronson Cherry, like Sully from St. George, these players now kind of bait us in. But I think someone who is picking players that just have an easy bump increase, are consistent in the middle of the field, are going to do really, really well. And even if they lose a bit of money from it, even if you in your team you have like a Haas, Tino, even if you had Haas, Tino, Terrell May, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if I see them up high in the ranks, because yes, they might lose a bit of money on Terrell May. Yes, they might lose a bit of money on Payne Haas. He might not start as hot as he did like last season, but it's going to be super, super hard, I think, this season for people to catch up. And that's something I'm really trying to take into consideration. And that's why I'm very, very scared of starting with like a Brandon Smith. Might be a bit of a inkling into my new team reveal. Again, I'm not saying Brandon Smith is a bad start. He's not a bad player and he doesn't show or have value. But it's like if he plays limited minutes and someone else has a Brayley and a Grant, or a Grant and a Reed, or just whoever, are these little things that I'm doing to try and create value and money actually going to hurt me because people already have the inside information with the premiums, with the centers, with the 2RFs and the FRFs who are going to get a bump up in price. And I'm here trying to make money and be safe and passive, but they're just like, I just want the points. So that's something I'm really weighing up. I also think another good strategy point is just aiming for the consistent players who have consistent tackling numbers is going to be a big thing this season and a safe way of doing it. And that's something I'll get into. I'm going to be doing another video about sort of strategy, what I'm thinking, things that kind of hurt the way you create a super coach team, especially with the new scoring system. So stay tuned for that. And again, I think the biggest thing as well on top of that is identifying ASAP through the last week of preseason challenge and first 2 weeks of NRL, how the new scoring actually looks with the real data from real games. I think you really have to be switched on in the first few weeks. I think they're going to be the most important weeks by far, and they generally are one of the most important periods in NRL Supercoach, but especially for this season. If you can just dive into the stats a bit more and look and try and find the gems that maybe people weren't thinking of, that you can see a bit of an increase, it's really going to help you out. It's really going to help you out. So that was just a bit of a strategy talk. Let's get into the nitty gritty of this video and what it's about. 5 pods for you guys that I think can seriously help you win NRL Supercoach in 2026. You know me, and if you don't know me, I take my pods super serious. Okay, super serious. The reason being is I don't like giving you like 10, 15 pods and none of them will be in my team. And it's like, well, why is this guy recommending pods and he's not even having them in his team to like get points for him? I think that's silly. So every single person I'm about to mention, some of them are already in my team. Some of them have a high chance of either being swapped out and the new ones being put in. So I'm just telling you now, I'm not going to tell you who, but there are some of these players out of these 5 that are currently sitting in my Supercoach team. I'm going to start off. I actually couldn't believe this player was under 10%. So everyone here is 10% and under. Well, really 9% and under. First one is Hamish Stewart, $402,000, 9% ownership. And I literally put here, he just needs more minutes. His average of Supercoach was 41.1, goes up to a 42.3, so a 1.2 increase, a point increase. He averaged 41 points in 38 minutes alone for the season, and he had an average of 35 in base. That's absolutely insane. If he can just get another 5 to 10 minutes with St. George Dragons, they had some forwards departure. We know Toby Couchman's there. He's going to be one of the leaders. But if Hamish Stewart can just get another 10 minutes, he's already showing about 10 points of value. And I think that's just a show-in. 400,000. Look, if it was 450 to like 480,000, I'd be a bit hesitant. But this $400,000 price tag for the type of base machine he is, literally all he needs is minutes. And if I see that, especially in one of the trials, I think that the toughest thing is now that they obviously are going to play in Vegas, so we miss out on a week of like information. I'm very scared though if he's just on the interchange and I'm like, do I gamble it? I most probably don't. But if I can see in the trials how he sort of played a bit more extra minutes, I'll be very pretty much shoe-in lock-in. I'm just looking at the trials now, but they're playing today at 7:10 against the Rabbits. So that'll be an interesting game to see. Again, I just think as a player, him and Couchman need to be the duo that really step up, and hopefully that happens. Looking at the team list here, let's just see if he's actually starting. He's on the interchange at number 14, so that I'm going to be interested in his stats, see how many minutes he plays, and see what they look like. But again, very interested in this player, so we'll see what happens. All right, next pod I have for you is Stefano Utokamanu. Sorry if I pronounced the last name wrong. $515,600, 4% ownership. Now, some of these stats I'm going to read to you are wild. So he gets a 2.1 point bump from Supercoach to NRL stats, which makes him have an average of 55 points with a base of 40. So already just off the bump, he's basically increased by 4 points. You get a 4-point bump. That's huge. In his last 6 games based off new scoring, he would have had, just get ready for this, geez, I'm scared to read this. 90, 84, 66, 72, 63, 52. That equates to an average of 72 in his last 6 games. I think he could be one of the biggest pods to start the season with. The only reason he is not in people's teams is because there is so much value in FRF and 2RF this season. We have Trey Mooney, okay, who's a great player. We have Jermaine Hopgood. We have Hamish Stewart. We've got Tanella Paseka. We've got even Jack Hetherington from Melbourne, obviously a cheapie, but there's just so much value in these positions. But Stefano at a 4% ownership, I think is just really, really interesting because he had such a good end to the season. He also came into a Melbourne Storm team where I think he would have faced a lot of pressure. And I think as the season went on, he became a better player, got used to the system. And I think he knows that he is the main guy. He's the guy now, front row forward. He has to be basically the Payne Haas for the Melbourne Storm. He has to be the guy that is consistent and does well every week. And I think he can do it. Now, I'm not saying he's going to have Payne Haas numbers every week. I'm just saying that for the front row or forward pack, he has to be the leader. Another year in him. I want to see how he starts this season. Whether I shift him into front row forward, I don't know. If he had like a crazy preseason game, that would get my head thinking a lot and the cogs turning. But for now, I just think he's a great pod. And there's been talk about him. People have said they're actually considering starting him in his team. Even the winner of last NRL Supercoach 2025 spoke about him. Does that not tell you more? So, going to be really, really interesting. I think he's a super cool, consistent pod. That's one thing. I think he's a consistent pod. I think an average game for him will be in the 40s, so you're not going to lose too much money, but you're hopefully, wanting that points increase. All right. I know this is going to sound really crazy to you guys, but my next 3 pods are all from one team. It's from the West Tigers. Now, you might shake your head. You might make a noise and go, are you kidding? What is this guy about to say? But there's 3 players in the West Tigers team that have seriously low ownership, and half of it is most probably because of the round 1 bye. And I totally understand that. But I need to talk about this gentleman first. And when I read you out some of the stats for these guys, I think it will surprise you. Taylor May. Now, before I get into Taylor May, I just want to show you the West Tigers draw. So obviously they have the bye in round 1, but then they have North Queensland at home, Souths away, New Zealand away, Para away, Newcastle at home. Now, in terms of being away, that kind of sucks, but the competition they're up against, I wouldn't say is crazy. I think these are going to be very high-scoring games. Maybe not very, but I think Tigers will still get points. I think Tigers are going to be energetic at the start of the season. They always are, and I want to tap into that. And let's speak about Taylor May. $617,400, 5% ownership. He gets a 3.1 increase from the new scoring changes, which means he averaged a 73 in 78 minutes. He averaged a 30 of base as a center, which is great. Okay. This is also only in 7 games from round 20 to 27, with the highest score of his being 125 against the Cowboys, who they versed first this season. That really tempts me. So I think, again, with the 5 center setup, he could be a very easy not easy pick, but someone that you could look at like swinging someone else in the flex if you can and just taking a hit for the first week. Maybe it's a 20, 30-point hit. But the way Taylor May plays football in a Tigers team that is very attacking, they just love running the ball. He suits Supercoach scoring and the Supercoach style of play in general and the point system. I think he could be a genuinely very good pod in the center position. Now, the next one I'm going to speak about is Kai Pearce-Paul. $604,500, 1% ownership. He was in the top 20 tacklers for the season, sitting at 18th with 861 tackles made. He has a 4.5 score bump from scoring changes, which is absolutely massive. And we also think he's still going to be an 80-minute player. I think the Knights didn't really suit his style of play, and I actually do think West Tigers will suit him a lot more, to be honest with you. And I think he's going to have more chances at scoring involvements and just honestly being close to either like just being a borderline 65-ish plus close to 70 average player. Maybe 70 is pushing it too far, but he's a great tackler. He's getting a good bump up from the scoring system. He's in the 2RF position. Sure, we have a stacked 2RF like sort of position where we can choose so many players that have value. Of course, that's the one thing that I understand is tough. And that's why I kind of sit with Taylor May more. But I think he is actually being overlooked, to be honest with you. I put down here, this means he had an average of 67 in 79 minutes. He had 4 games over 80, and I think this season he will be close to getting 100 plus in a game. I think the Knights didn't utilize him well enough, and I think the West Tigers will. I really, really do. I'm not going to sit here and say this guy's going to be the next biggest Supercoach player in 2RF position. No, but I do think the Tiger style of play will benefit him, and they'll look to utilize him a bit more because I really do think he's a good player. He's tall, he's strong, he can get a lot of offloads if he chooses, and I think with the support running from like a Buller, Jerome Luai, who loves sort of lingering around, we could see that a bit more from KPP. Next is Adam Dewey. Actually insane. 556,000, 1% ownership, and has a 3.1 increase from the stats changes. Now, it's hard to sort of gauge what his indicative and true numbers are because he didn't play a lot of halfbacks, started in the centers, was doing okay, nothing crazy. Then got switched to halfback. I mean, had a game of 111 against Manly in round 24. Against the Bulldogs, he was 105 points, then 45 points against Penrith. Had a game of 51 against Gold Coast. I mean, for his price and what he can provide, also the goal kicker for West Tigers, I honestly think it's massive. I think if they didn't have a round 1 bye, Adam Dewey would be up there as one of the most highly owned halfbacks. And that's what I think it is. I really, really believe if West Tigers did not have the bye, Dewey would be sitting easily over 10 to 15% ownership. And if that's the case, why are we so scared to go him? Again, the West Tigers have a great opening draw against some teams that have a bit of injuries, are known to be a bit poor on the defensive end. I think if you go for any West Tigers players, it has to be now. Now, the reason I say that is because from round 7, they go into Broncos at home, Canberra at home, Sharks away, Melbourne away, Manly at home, bye, Bulldogs at home, Penrith at home. That is awful. So from round 7 to round 14, that is a clear dodge, right? So this means that really throughout 7-ish rounds, you're just avoiding them. Now, I think around round 15, you can also target them again, but it's okay. I mean, you got Gold Coast, Dolphins, Newcastle, St. George, great, into New Zealand. Then you have Bulldogs, Canberra, Para bye. Not too bad whatsoever. But the way their draw looks opening, like they're going to be fresh, round 2, straight off a bye, I'm very, very interested. And I usually wouldn't be, but if things go haywire with the way the scoring is and with what people picked, I mean, the Herbie Farnworth goes a bit average. The Jacob Kraz goes a bit average, and people are expecting these bump ups. I kind of feel like I'm one step ahead if I start with the Tigers players. Now, again, 180 that. If the Herbie Farnworths and the bump ups work out really good, I'm kind of points behind because I've got players with a bye. But you also have to just choose players that you believe in. And I kind of believe in Taylor May, Dewey, and KPP, but I can't go all of them. So I want to wait for the trials. They didn't play any of the players today from what I can see against the Roosters. Macassini dominated, just going off topic here, but from what I can see, I checked it before, none of the players that I'm talking about were playing. So that's fine. They'll hopefully play and likely play next week, and I can get a better look at it. But I had to mention those three because I think it was absolutely crazy that their ownership was that low. Now, going into a bit of a pods watch list. Now, I know I only said I had 5, but I actually do have a few here that I just wanted to mention because one, the ownership is very low. Keep tabs on Ryan Couchman, $235,600, 6% ownership only. If he can log in some minutes for St. George, I think he's going to be a great, great pick. The biggest thing is here, we need to have our binoculars on for the Gold Coast Titans forward position and who gets what and who gets these extra minutes from Jamin Jolliffe, the Jamin Jolliffe injury. Now, we saw Cleese Haas and Moeki Fotuaika have really good games. Don't just bite into that bait straight away. But again, Fotuaika, $507,600, 1% ownership. Cleese Haas, $410,000, 0% ownership. So I don't know who it is that's going to get these minutes. Is it Curtis Morin? Is it someone else? Is it one of these two guys that gets a bit of a bump? Just keep your binoculars on because I think whoever reads the Gold Coast sort of player or minutes or whoever gets this little bump from the Jolliffe injury, it's going to be really, really rewarding. And I just wanted to mention that because I do think it's super, super important. All right, so they're my pods. 5 pods plus a few more on the watch list. We've gone through the strategy. We've gone through the pods. Let me know if you have any pods under 10% or 10% and under that you think I should have mentioned. There were some there that I was close to talking about, like Trey Fuller, Jacob Preston, but I just didn't. I only wanted to give you ones that I'm seriously considering, and I know that Jacob Preston and Trey Fuller are not going to be in my team. So that's why I didn't mention them. But if you know or you're like, hey, what about this player? Put them in the comments. I'll give you an answer. Maybe we can talk about them in a future video. Q&A. All right, so let's go through some questions here. Thoughts on Cobbo after the first trial? He looked pretty handy and might be a viable pick if you don't want to break the bank, I think, on 5 guns. Thoughts on Cobbo after the first trial? And do you think he's a viable pick? I think he is a viable pick. I don't think he's obviously going to be in the centers. I think he's going to be on the wing. But Herbie Farnworth and him on the left edge really scares me. And I'll give you an inkling. They're both in my team at the moment. Now, I do want to preface that I think, obviously, out of the two, Cobbo's the one that could be out. If I don't like what I see over maybe the next coming games. But he just looks like someone that is going to benefit off a lot of scoring potential off the Dolphins, and I don't want to miss out on that. The one thing I'm not scared of, the one thing I sort of consider is it more viable to have another center from another team instead of Cobbo? And that's something I'm only weighing up. Like, do I just go a Herbie Farnworth, not have 2 Dolphins players? Because when Dolphins do play bad or they get walloped or they're just not having a good game, I then have 2 players that aren't going to score as well, where I could spread the love around. I could even go to another center. I could go to a Crichton, let's say from Bulldogs, where I don't have Kraz. I could go to a Valentine Holmes at the moment, who I don't have because of the hamstring injury. But I'm sort of like just saying, is it better to spread the love around and not have all your eggs in one basket and have like Dolphins players, at least 2 of them in your center? That's one thing I'm weighing up. Next question, 2 questions here. Who is a popular player that you don't want on your team? And what's a Supercoach hot take that you have? I would definitely say Suafar Logo is my Supercoach player that I think shouldn't be as high ownership. He's sitting at 33%. And I just think that with the changes in scoring, yes, Melbourne have a nice opening draw. I just am really worried about how he slots into the team straight away. And also, he may not even be the fullback. It could be Nick Meaney. That's something we need to look out for. So at the moment, I would say Suafa Logo. And what's a super coach hot take that I have? That's a really interesting question that I didn't even research or think about before the podcast. So that's awesome. But I'm going to have to say my super coach hot take is that I think I'm going to give you two. I think that Lindsay Smith is an underrated super coach front row forward. And with the tackles and how things have changed, I think he could actually be quite a safe and consistent pick. And number two is I think the highest scoring fullback I think one of the most underrated and best performing fullbacks of the season to start like the first 8 rounds is going to be Jai Gray. I'm going to go out on a limb and talk about Jai Gray, who's also a massive pod that I could have mentioned. But I really, really like him. I'm kind of scared to go him. All right. I love Jaden Campbell. Thoughts? I said, with Gold Coast having their first 3 games away and a high-ish price tag, plus generally the season starting off slow, it's just a no for me. I think in the position of halfback and 5'8", I'm going to be 5'8". I'm really going to be as safe as possible and not try and sink too much money into there. I really want to just kind of spread my money around center wing, front row forward, and 2RF, and a bit into the hookers. And to be honest with you, like halfback, 5'8", fullback is where I'm trying to draw funds from a bit. So yeah, I just can't spend that much there. He is a great player. Also, Gold Coast have the first 3 games away. Jamin Jolliffe injury could hurt the way they are as, getting up the field. He's a great player. Tino's going to have a heavier workload. And I want to see how they are as a team. I wrote down in here, just because a team had a bad season last season doesn't mean they're meant to have a good season the next season. That doesn't work like that. That's not how sports works. Obviously, we expect them to be a bit better than they were last season, but it doesn't mean they're going to be a good team. And it's more of a wait and see for me. I'm high on Lecker. Could he get Jewel? Thoughts over this, please, mate? And I said, yes, if he's named in the squad, he will. So he'll be 2RF CTW. Thanking Brandon Savage from Supercoach Experience. I like him, but I would prefer him in CTW just because of all the value we have in 2RF. But I think having him in CTW or a cheeky flex spot could be really, really good. And as long as he gets minutes, I think he's a great shout. But just be prepared to have that kind of seesaw Viliami Kickhouse sort of scoring. One game he might get 35 points, the next he gets 73, and vice versa. I think he needs to show a bit more consistency as a player, but I don't mind it whatsoever. And I think he's got a lot of growth in him. And whether it's this season or close enough, I think we will be talking about him as a super coach player and a good super coach pick. Last but not least, who is your favorite pod at the moment? And I wrote here, it's just a very close battle between Adam Dewey or Dwayhe. I don't know how you pronounce it. Sorry again. Please let me know in the comments. And Taylor May. I just said it just depends on how each of them look in the trials or the preseason. And I think I'm leaning towards Taylor May. But again, if Dylan Brown does get 5'8", Adam Dewey, Dylan Brown 5'8", could be really nice, safe, consistent picks. But yeah, for me, it's either Adam Dewey or Taylor May right now. So I hope that helps you guys. There's a bit of Q&A, 5 pods for you that can seriously help you with NRL Supercoach 2026. I hope you enjoyed this video, this podcast. Let me know what you're thinking in regards to pods below, or who you're just absolutely hot on, or who you even think is an over-owned player that you're like, I will never touch them. Put it in the YouTube comments or the Spotify comments, whatever you want. I'll get back to you. See you on the next one, guys. Wolfie here from the Rage Traders. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Catch you soon.